Hello everyone and welcome to Career Launcher MBA YouTube channel. So I hope you all are aware, if you are following the news, that today the budget has been presented. So we'll be having a session for that. And not only that, I'll be discussing about economic survey which was presented yesterday. Okay. So budget comes too much in the news, but economic survey not everyone knows. But yes, economic survey is also very important from your exam point of view plus interview point of view as well. Okay, because you are going to be in B school, right? So of course everything is all about economics there. So the basic rough idea about the Indian economy, the world economy, you should have, right? So in today's class, I will be discussing economic survey 2023-24 and budget 2024-25. Okay, so this was presented yesterday and this was presented today. I hope you are aware. Okay, now, so to give you a rough idea, economic survey mostly talks about the incidents or the things that happen in the last fiscal year, and the budget is a sort of a proposal, or you can say by the government, for the future next fiscal year, for the upcoming fiscal year, that the government will be spending on this, that, and all, right? So I think I'm audible and visible. If I'm audible, visible, everything is crystal clear, please write in the comment section once that yes, sir, your voice is reaching and all. Now, first of all, let's talk about this, what we call it as economic survey, which is of course presented by the Ministry of Finance, Department of Economic Affairs. There's a person, there's a post called as Chief Economic Advisor. This Chief Economic Advisor is responsible primarily for publishing this, although there are other officers as well, but the main person behind it is actually Mr. V. Anant Nageshwaran, the Chief Economic Advisor of India. Now, why he is so important for you? I went to his LinkedIn profile and I found that he is an IIM Ahmedabad pass out. So this is an inspiration for you as well. Okay? You can be also in future be the Chief Economic Advisor of India, making this. So let's move on. See, in economic survey, I mean, it's almost more than 250, 300 page long and all. So it's not possible to read each and everything. But yes, the important things that is being discussed, I'll be discussing, like the world economy scenario and the Indian economy scenario, the basic ones. Then after that, I'll be discussing about today's budget as well. Okay. Okay. So let's move on. The first chapter is talking about what is being talked about is state of the Indian economy, steady as she goes and all. Now, so basically, I hope you are aware for the past 3, 4, 5 years, if you have been reading this economic survey, the economic survey was talking about the same COVID-19 pandemic, because of course it impacted each and every walk of life. So of course, why should economy not be affected? The reality is that yes, it has the pandemic has damaged the economy of each and every country. You know these things. Now, so basically, the author is talking about the economic survey, saying that the 3 things were most important during the COVID-19 or fight against COVID-19 pandemic. The first is public spending on infrastructure. Now, first of all, you have to understand when I say public spending, so the people do not come and spend. Public spending here means the government spending. Now, so you have to understand one thing, that when COVID happened, right? I hope you are aware when the COVID happened, what was the case? The private investment was very less. The private company was not investing. Even the private citizens were investing less. The household savings, I mean, they were trying to save, not investing much and all. So in that case, how to drive the economy? I hope you are aware the GDP. There's a concept, C plus I plus G plus NX. You must have studied in NCERT. Like consumption, investment, right? So like the investment is very important. Government expenditure also is there. So basically, investment is very important to drive the GDP, right? To drive the GDP. Now, when the lockdown happened, and of course we went into technical recession and all, the GDP growth went in negative as well during COVID-19 phase and all. So to drive the economy, we need investment, and there is no private investment at that time. So it was very important that the government should be spending. So when government will spend on infrastructure and other big projects, what will happen? It will drive the GDP, right? Because it will contribute to the GDP, of course, and it will contribute to employment and all. So that is why the first thing that is being discussed is about public spending on infrastructure. The second thing is being talked about is what we call it as digitization of service delivery. This you all know, everyone knows it. I mean, you know better than me what is digitization. Everything is digitization nowadays. And digitalization, like if you are paying through UPI, and e-ticket, everything is now you are learning. On YouTube channel. So this is also an example of digitalization of service delivery. Think and many other things like. And the third concept is actually Atmanirbhar Bharat. Now, why is this concept very important? So we'll discuss the analysis part as well. Atmanirbhar Bharat, in English, we call it as self-dependent. So when we are talking about self-dependent, what is we are talking about? We are talking about, basically, we are talking about promoting manufacturing in India. This is the most important thing. Promoting manufacturing in India. Now, there are many reasons why Atmanirbhar Bharat or self-dependent India is very important. First, for example, let's take an example. We have set up some plant in Bangalore. I'm just giving an example. This is Bangalore. We have set up a plant of a motorcycle so that we can manufacture our own motorcycle in our own country instead of importing. Atmanirbhar Bharat means in manufacturing sector, we should be less dependent on imports. We should manufacture ourselves. Why should we buy bike and scooty and car from other countries? We will manufacture in our own country. The question is, why it is important to manufacture in our own country? The first thing is, when we manufacture in our own country, the jobs will be created in our own country. Yes or no? Yes. Second thing is, when we are importing, let's say, for example, I'm just giving an example, we are importing something from China. Or let's say, let's leave China. Let's say we are importing from USA. Okay, something. So we have to pay them in dollars. So when we have to pay them in dollars, what will happen? Our foreign exchange reserve will go down. Or what we call in general term as trade balance or trade deficit will increase if we import a lot. So generally speaking, importing, we should actually control our imports. In general, we already have trade deficit. If you are reading newspapers and all, you must be aware, we will come to that actually our export is lesser than imports. It's already the case. So what we are supposed to do is we have to actually increase the export and control the import. There are some import product which we cannot control. Just say, for example, we are importing a lot oil from these Middle East countries. This is an import. We cannot control it. The reason is this is a natural thing. It comes, we have oil, but very less oil reserves in India, like in this region and some in Assam, and there are some places, but that is not enough. So we cannot actually avoid that. However, the products like manufacturing products, we can, make in India. Why should we buy? Let's take an example. If we are buying a BMW car, we are bringing it from Germany. Why need to bring it in Germany? Let's make a plant in India. We'll be having a BMW car. I'm just giving an example. Perhaps I think it is there in Chennai, if I'm not wrong. So that is the idea about the Atmanirbhar Bharat, to create jobs, to ensure that imports should be controlled so that our foreign exchange reserve should be good enough. Right? Is it clear? If my voice, if I'm clear, please write yes, sir, so that I can move forward. Now, the same economic survey talks about the after a year marked by global uncertainties and volatilities, the global economy has achieved greater stability. Now, you have to understand one thing. If you are reading the economic survey last year and last year, you must have come across these things. Now, what happened was we have seen 2020, not very good year, 2021 also. Why? These were affected with COVID-19's pandemic. Now, what happened was even 2022 was also not very good as far as global trade is concerned, because in February 2022, Russia-Ukraine war happened. And when Russia-Ukraine war happened, actually, the world became polarized. Polarized means like it became two-pole. Like some countries started supporting Russia and the West started supporting Ukraine. Now, this actually also impacted the global trade. And that is why for the past 3 years, 20, 21, 22, actually, we were not seeing very good performance as far as global trade is concerned or the growth in global GDP is concerned, right? But here, that is why they're saying that after a year marked by global uncertainties and volatilities, now we have achieved some sort of stability. Like they're saying this is the growth. So you're not supposed to remember the percentage because it keeps on changing, but you should have a rough idea how the thing actually works. Now they are talking about global trade moderated due to rising geopolitical tensions. Now, geopolitical tensions, cross-border restrictions. Like when actually this actually started even before the COVID. Like you must have heard when Donald Trump was the president from 2017 January to 2021. I mean, he was trying to impose a lot of. He was like trade war, especially with China. That okay, I will put a lot of import taxes on your products. Then China also started putting these things and all. So what happened was, there was a concept of what we call it as deglobalization started. Although it is not 100% true that everything has been deglobalized, but yes, especially in trade aspect, that is what is being talked about. And after then Russia-Ukraine war happened, so tensions actually grew, cross-border restrictions. This is what we are talking about. So global trade moderated means hota hai thoda kam hona, means slightly controlled, means slightly reduced and all. So these are the things being talked about. So अगर आप देखोगे, you no need to remember the percentage and all, but just have a rough idea. If you see 2022, 2023 April and 2024 April, right? So if you see there was a declining trend, then it came up. Okay. And perhaps mostly in world output, this is advanced economies. Advanced economies, US, Canada, UK, we're talking about it. Emerging and developing economies like India, Brazil, so these are the emerging economies, right? So basically, if you see it, this is the same place where actually this went down and it's trying to recover back. Why it went down? The reason is Russia-Ukraine war primarily. Okay, so the disruption in supply chain and all these things have happened. Okay, so that is what is being talked about. Now they're saying that all major economies have recovered from the pre-pandemic level. So whatever we were in pre-COVID, so we are now actually better than that. So India has also improved and all. Numbers is nahi yaad karne, just for a reference I am giving you. Now this is very important. I always discuss whenever I teach my student that economy is linked with many things. Like, okay. So economy is linked with international relation. Economy is linked with judicial function, justice delivery system. We will come to each and everything. Okay. So how international relation or international trade impacts an economy of the world. So here is the best example. You can see the example of actually the Red Sea crisis. Now, what exactly is the Red Sea crisis? Especially it is there after October 2023 and all. There go. First of all, let me tell you, I hope you are aware, this is Israel. Okay. And see, here you will find Gaza also. And this organization called as Hamas, which attacked Israel on 7th October 2023. After that, the war started. Israel also started attacking back, and it killed thousands of people. I hope you are aware of these things. Okay. Now, what happened was, so here the war is happening, and this on one side is Israel, and on the other side is Palestine. So basically, Palestine is basically Arab, people of Arab countries. So there is a support of Palestine from Arab countries. Okay, like the example is Yemen here. So in Yemen, actually there is civil war is happening. Civil war means war within the country, and one group is called as Houthi group. You must have studied in newspaper, right? So what happened is Houthis are actually supporting the Palestinian cause. So let's say if there is Israeli ship coming in this way, in this route, or let's say American ship or UK ship coming, like I'll tell you. This is America, so sometimes ship goes like this. Okay, like here is France ship is coming like this, or a UK ship is coming, or Israel is here, so Israel ship is coming. So there is actually this is Suez Canal. I hope you are aware. Built in 1869. So if there is any ship coming in this route, Israel ship, let's say, is coming in this route, or US, UK, because US, UK, France, all are actually supporting Israel. Yeah, Germany. Okay. So basically, when their ship is coming, the actually Houthis from Yemen are attacking them in this region. Bab al-Mandab Strait we call. Okay. So what we call it as Red Sea crisis, you can understand. Okay. That is what is being discussed here. So after that, what is happening is when Red Sea crisis, this is very important route. Okay. Otherwise, you will have to go a long way. If, let's say, people from France is supposed to come to India via ship, it will go like this. Otherwise, the longer route is like this, which is much longer. Okay. And here, actually, everything is happening here. The Houthis are attacking the ship from US, UK bound, US bound, France bound, like, or Israel bound and all. So what is happening is a very important trade route is getting affected. Yes, and that is what is being talked about here, and it led to the disruption in supply chain, sending ripples to global trade. Ripples means it is impacting in a negative way, है ना? That is what is being talked about. Okay, is it clear till now, guys? And these reports where if you are reading newspaper, you must have come across these things. Who are Houthis attacking Red Sea ships? Now let's talk about this. Is it clear everything? If you have any question, you can ask in the comment section. Okay, and now let's talk about this geopolitical risk. Again, the geopolitical risk means the same thing. The scenario at the world level, whether there is stability or not. So I have told you, if you see, this is January 22, and just after that, here is February 2022. What happened here? I have told you, Russia-Ukraine war started. Yes. And here, if you see October 2023, this is actually after the Hamas attack. So Israel-Palestine war. Okay. Is it clear? So if you see it carefully, here and here, the risk actually increased. And because of which, of course, there have been issues regarding the global trade and all. Because everything is related. I mean, economics is related with the international trade. I hope you are aware. Now, there's a concept of inflation being talked about, a rough idea about the world inflation and all. Okay, A means advanced economies like US, Canada and all. EMD means emerging economies and developing economies, right? So if you see it carefully, again, here if you see, there was a rise in inflation in 2022 because of Russia-Ukraine war. Because when Russia-Ukraine war started, there was sudden rise in oil prices, and because of which, since whenever oil prices increases, it leads to increase in price of each and every product. Because of course, oil is used in transportation, right? So whenever there is an increase in price of petrol, diesel, or any other such stuff, it will lead to rise in actually the inflation in other aspects as well, in other goods and all. Okay. Now then they're talking about the repo rate, policy rates as well. Go. You must be aware of these things. Repo rate, So repo rate is, this is generally for short-term loan. Like if RBI gives a loan to commercial bank, generally it is for 7 days, 14 days, 21 days like this. Let's say RBI has given loan of 10 crore. I'm just giving example. So the interest rate that is being charged by RBI, this is called as a repo rate. And this is used to control inflation. Now you will be thinking, sir, how repo rate is linked with inflation? Okay, let me explain. Just hold on. Just say, let's take an example. Okay, if the inflation rate is, the interest rate is 3%, R1, and in R2 in case 2 is 5%, then I'm sure you are able to understand that in second case, the commercial bank has to return more interest. So in case 2, the commercial bank will have less money left. So if the commercial bank has left money to left, the commercial bank will be giving less loan to people. So when people have less money in their hand, when people have less money, they will demand less. And when they demand less, the inflation will be in control. You got it? There's a concept called as demand pull inflation. Okay. So when people have more money in their hand, they will demand more. Okay. So if there is inflation in the economy, what actually RBI does is it increases repo rate. Because when it increases repo rate, the commercial bank will have less money to be left, and it will give less loan to the people, and people will have less money in their hand, and in that way the inflation will be controlled. So that is what he's saying. The inflation to maintain policy rate high level because of persistent rise in inflation. So when the inflation was high, the repo rate was increased by the central banks like RBI and all to control the inflation. Okay, that is how the thing works. Okay, some basic cheese you should be knowing about it. I'll be giving you homework. Go and read about what we call it as MPC, Monetary Policy Committee. Very important. Go and read it. This is the committee of RBI, actually, which takes decision regarding repo rate, reverse repo rate, statutory liquidity ratio and all. Okay. Now, एक और चीज है moderation. Whenever you say moderation means reduce होना, है ना? Moderation in global commodity prices. I have just told you that in 2022 we have seen a Russia-Ukraine war. Because of the moment the war started, suddenly the oil prices increased, which led to increase in prices of each and everything. However, over a period of time, it has actually been controlled. Okay, you're seeing it? It's getting reduced. No need to remember the numbers. Okay, number नहीं याद रखना है, but a rough idea I'm just giving you. Okay. So then again, these are some of the things like when COVID happened, actually, देखो बहुत सारी चीज में when COVID happened, the things went like this, है ना? Okay, during COVID and all. Like for example, the sale, especially the sale, like the best example is tourism industry. When the COVID happened, the tourism industry went like that because there was lockdown. In the same fashion, the sales of automobile, who is going to buy a scooty or a bike in the lockdown, right? So the passenger sale of the bike actually also went down and all these things. Then over a period of time, it is recovering back. Okay. Now let's talk about this capital expenditure. Also, I have just told you. So capex means capital expenditure. Now, what is capital expenditure? Capital expenditure of the government is the expenditure on big roads. I mean, big projects, long-term projects, I would say, long-term projects, like which require 3 to 5 years minimum. Like best example, like rails, like we are making a rail bridge in Chenab, right? Then we have highways, national highways, expressways, take a big infrastructure projects, right? So for that, actually, the government started spending, and if you see it carefully, especially after COVID, around the COVID regions, the government actually expenditure has risen. Why? I have just told you, because during the COVID, the private investment, the private companies were not investing or spending and all. So of course, it needed that the government should spend more in order to drive back the economy, which got affected because of COVID-19. Is it clear? I think it's very simple. Now, there is one more concept. This is very important, inflation. Now, there's a concept called as inflation, and I hope everyone can understand roughly. Inflation means, in general, it is rise in prices of goods and services. Okay. Now, there's a committee, which we call it as Urjit Patel Committee. It recommended that the healthy inflation is that it should be 4 plus minus 2%. Or what we call it as 2% to 6%. So if inflation in India is between 2 to 6%, it is considered as healthy. It's okay, fine. If it is less than 2% or more than 6%, it is not considered as good. Okay. Ab dekho, see it carefully. Now, there's a concept, let me explain so that you can understand. Now, they have separately used the word headline inflation and core inflation. So headline inflation is the total one. So the core inflation basically is headline inflation minus food and fuel. Minus food and fuel. I'm writing food and fuel. Why? Because these two are volatile products. Sometimes you must have seen like sometimes suddenly the price of food, any one product like onion increases suddenly. Fuel also is something like that. It depends a lot on international relations as well. So that is why sometimes they calculate separately something called as core inflation. Headline inflation is overall, and this is food inflation. So if you see it carefully, आप गौर से देखोगे, so headline inflation is between 2 to 6%, right? देखो ये blue है ना, 2 to 6% ये वाला range है. This should be 2 to 6%, है ना? So the blue one is within this range. The red one, the core inflation, is also within this range, but the food inflation is very high. It has crossed the 6%. In fact, it is around 9-10%. So basically, overall the inflation is fine, but if we see separately a food inflation, it is not very good. It has crossed the what we believe the band of 2 to 6%. And it is somewhere around, it's around 9-10% around. Okay, so this is just have a basic idea about it. Now, there are many reasons actually why food inflation happens. It is more dependent on agriculture and productivity also. Like if the bad monsoon happens, if the monsoon is not very good, barish hi nahi hui, then agriculture productivity will go down. So when the agriculture productivity is slow or less, then the food inflation will happen. This is one reason. There are other reasons also. Let's say cold storage is not enough, warehouse is not enough. These are many reasons. Okay. Now let's talk about something called as forex. Forex is actually, the other name is foreign exchange reserve. This is actually the main name. Now, why is foreign exchange reserve very important? Because it helps us in importing products. Now, importing things, let me explain. देखो एक्चुअली क्या होता है ना, फॉरेन एक्सचेंज फॉरेक्स में we have what we call it as foreign currency asset. Foreign currency asset, like we have dollar, we have pound, we have euro, we have yen, plus we have gold also, plus there is something called as SDR, and I mean there are some other thing also, we are not going in detail. But for practical purpose or for understanding purpose, just understand that forex comprises of dollars, just for explanation purpose. Now let's say we have somewhere around total value is somewhere around $666 billion currently, which is very good. Actually currently we have $666 billion. Now, why good forex or high forex is good? Like for example, let's say this is India. You want to import something from USA. So let's say we have imported something, let's say jet, aeroplane. So we'll pay them in dollars, maybe something like, I'm just giving example, $1 lakh. So from where we'll get this? So we'll actually take it from forex. So this actually, so foreign exchange reserve actually is controlled by RBI. Okay, so if we want to import something, we will be using that money. Now the question is, sir, where does it come from? This amount. So it actually comes from exporting. Let's say India exported something to France. Let's say we sent shirt. So France must have paid us something in dollars, because generally international trade happens in dollars. So this dollar we put actually in forex reserve. Okay. So the stronger the forex reserve is, the better it is that yes, we can import. We should not take much tension as far as import is concerned. Like you must have heard in Sri Lanka 2-3 years back, what happened was forex reserve was very less, and they were not able to even import basic things like medicine and all. And similar thing happened actually around 1991. Have you heard about this? LPG reforms. These are very important. If you are going to be an MBA student, you should know this basic economics. This is the most important landmark event happened in India's economic history. Liberalization, privatization, globalization. So just before it, we also saw a decline in foreign exchange reserve. What we call it as BOP crisis, balance of payment crisis also happened because of very low forex reserve. Is it clear till now? Hopefully. Is it clear, guys? Now let's talk about this also. This is discussed in economic survey, but it is actually a report of last year of Niti Aayog. Now let me explain what exactly it is. For example, is it clear, guys? मेरी आवाज पहुंच रही है ना? No one is saying anything. Okay. Yes. If my voice is reaching, just write yes, Anna, so that I can understand. You are able to understand. Now, there's a concept called as poverty. Now, poverty does not only mean that you have money problem. This is one aspect. But there are other aspects also. Okay? Means if you have money and your children is not studying, okay, it is also sort of a poverty. So basically, the Niti Aayog has come up with a concept of multi-dimensional poverty index. Multi-dimensional. So basically, they're talking about 12 indicators. देख रहे हो 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. For example, if you are rich, if you have money, but your children is not able to get proper nutrition, it is also a sort of poverty. Child and adolescent mortality. If a child is dying young, if the child is not able to get schooling, cooking, fuel, sanitation, all these are important. So this is what we define it as multi-dimensional poverty index released by Niti Aayog. So the Niti Aayog report said that almost 24.8 crore people came out of this in 9 years. Okay, 9 years means 2013, 14 से 2022, 23. Okay, is it clear? Now, so that is what is also being talked about here. Economic survey made 2015-16 में, so 24.85% in India was multidimensional poor. Now it is 11.28%. This is what economic survey also repeats the same. ठीक है ना? देखो नीचे लिखा ना by Niti Aayog. Okay, the next one is a little bit talking about the financial inclusion, the banking sector as well. तो अब देखो ये क्या बता रहे हैं कि इंडियन स्टॉक मार्केट वाज अमंग द बेस्ट परफॉर्मिंग मार्केट्स विद निफ्टी 50 इंडेक्स असेंडिंग बाय 26. देखो अब देखो बताते हैं इन स्टॉक मार्केट देयर आर टू वेरी फेमस stock markets in India. One is called as Bombay Stock Exchange. This is the oldest in Asia. Not only in India, this is the oldest in Asia. Another is called as National Stock Exchange. And these two are actually SEBI registered. I hope you are aware. There are other stock markets also, but these two are more prominent. Okay. So Bombay Stock Exchange, we have an index called as Sensex. And National Stock Exchange, we have an index called as Nifty 50, which actually helps us understand the performance of the companies. Okay. So ये बता ये रहे, they are saying that even in those years, in the past few years, Indian stock market is among the best performing markets. Even Nifty 50 ascending or increasing by 26.8% and all. Okay, so these are the things being talked about. Okay. Now the author is the most important thing that is being talked about is financial inclusion. In fact, this is one of the pioneer important thing where actually the government has been focusing on. The best example is Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana. Now, what exactly it is? Let me explain here. For example, let's take an example. There's a guy called as X, and he is actually living in village area, very poor. Okay, and he does not have bank account. It does not have bank account. Now, if he has any problem, where will he go? If he needs to take loan, he will most likely go to the local money lender. And the local money lender will charge heavy interest rate. So interest rate would be very high. Maybe 30, 40, 50%. Okay. Now, this interest rate becomes a reason for his further exploitation. Because if a person is poor and if he has taken a loan and if he's not able to pay back, and that loan keeps on increasing. Okay. So that is why it is very important that he should get a loan at a very less interest. Second, government also tries to help by different schemes. If government wants to send money, how can it send money? Because this X guy do not have a bank account. So it becomes very important that the X guy should have a bank account. Yes? अब मैं बताता हूं, जैसे if the same X guy opens a bank account and he is poor, he's a kisan, he's a farmer, and the government sends money in his bank account through what we call it as DBT, direct benefit transfer. This I'm giving example. There's a scheme called as PM Kisan, where actually I think 6,000 amount is given 1 year, so 2,000 per installment is given in one installment. Okay. So if he's a farmer, he need seed to grow, he need money for that. So the government will send it to his bank account and he will be able to then take it from that, and then it will be using. In worse circumstances, if he need loan, he will go to the bank because he has having a bank account and he will get a loan at a cheaper rate. So that is why opening a bank account for poor is very important. You got it? This concept is called as financial inclusion. Do you understand this? Financial inclusion means to ensure that the poor, especially because rich do have bank account. The people who are literate, educated, the rich in the cities, they have bank account. The poor should have a bank account. This idea is called as financial inclusion, and for that there's a government of India scheme, what we call it as Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana. You must have heard it, Jan Dhan Yojana. It became very famous. Okay, so I hope you understand. And digital financial inclusion means that yes, of course, we'll be able to use the digital thing. Like we should use an app, like we have app for bank, where you can check कि मेरा कितना पैसा गया, कितना आया and all. You can transfer it through UPI and all. No need for cash. So these are the things you should be knowing it. Now external sector की थोड़ा सा बात करते हैं. External sector means we have our interaction with the rest of the world as far as trade is concerned. So I have already told you that import in India is generally we import more as compared to export. देखो ये orange वाला import है, देखो ये ऊपर है, export नीचे वाला है. So when import is greater than export, we will have trade deficit. है ना? Otherwise, if export is greater than import, we'll have trade surplus. इसलिए देखो कि zero के नीचे जो trade balance दिखाया हुआ है, this is always below zero, right? If you're seeing it, ठीक है? So of course, recently also there was some articles on 15 July that yes, our export has increased, but trade deficit has widened because imports have increased further. So when import is more, of course, it will cause trade deficit. Okay, so these are some of the basic things. Have a rough idea of how the Indian economy is there. Okay. Now, एक और चीज है, one more thing is there, and that is what we call it as remittance. Okay, and then I'll tell you in a very simple language. Okay, let's take an example. I hope, let's say this is India. I hope many of your, let's say, relative, friends, uncles must be doing job in, let's say, Middle East. Just say, let's say, Qatar or in Dubai. Let's say your elder brother is working in Qatar or Dubai, and that brother is sending back your money. Let's say, kuch bhi. Every month he is sending back $1,000. Okay, I'm just giving example. So this $1,000 that your brother is sending to India is considered as a part of remittance. Okay, and India is the largest earner of remittance, $120 billion, right? USD means US dollar, so $120 billion is actually, and this actually India has been on the top for many years. Okay, so this you should be knowing it. This is, of course, about, these are the basic rough idea about how Indian economy works and all. That is why I'm talking about it. Now let's move on to the budget. So till now everything is crystal clear. Koi sawal hai? Do you have any question? Because now I'll be moving towards the budget 2024-25. So for the upcoming fiscal year, I mean, like we have entered already in the fiscal year. So we'll be talking about it. देखो एक चीज बता देता हूँ, budget is generally presented on 1st February. Even this year also the budget was presented, but that is called as interim budget. The reason was there was an election. So that is why an interim budget was presented. If there would not have been any election, then of course, I mean, July में कोई budget नहीं आता. There is no budget in July. Because of the election, there were actually two budgets presented. One was interim budget in 1st February, and now is the full budget in July. Okay, so let's start with the speech of the finance minister, Ms. Nirmala Sitharaman. And she has talked about this. Inflation was within the limit. I have already told you that it is between 2 to 6%. Other than food inflation, if we talk about core inflation or headline inflation, it is between 2 to 6%, the tolerance band. Okay, so we have already told. Now she's talking about interim budget. She said we have discussed on 1st February in interim budget 4 things, and she classified it as 4 castes of India. So which caste we are talking about? We're talking about Garib, Mahilaएं, women, Yuva, youth, and Annadata, the farmers. So actually the government said we are focusing on these 4. Okay, so for farmer we are providing minimum support price. Now what is MSP? I hope you understand this. MSP means it is a guarantee, a sort of a guarantee, not, I mean, technically not legal, but okay, a sort of a guarantee, and it is generally announced for 23 crops by the government. That okay, once you are done with the harvest, let's say मान लो June July में kharif crop is sown, है ना, kharif crop, and it is harvested in November December generally, है ना. So once you have, let's say you have harvested rice, now you are the farmer is ready with the rice and no one is buying it. Then the government says, I will come and buy at this price. And the government declares it in June, July, that in November, December, when you will be actually, no one is going to buy you, I will buy. And that's called as, that minimum rate is called as minimum support price announced by the government. Yes, there are issues. The issue is that, I mean, not all 100% procurement is done. These are separate things. But the concept is like this. Okay, the concept of minimum support price. Now, the government has said, because this is a recommendation of actually the MS Swaminathan committee also, that it should be the concept is C2 plus 50% we call. This, I'll give you an example. Just say a farmer had to spend, let's say, 50 rupee to grow 1 kg rice. Total cost means it is adding everything. Everything means the tractor cost, the transportation cost, the seed, fertilizer, everything. So the government, the farmer spent 50 rupees to actually grow 1 kg of rice. So the government should announce the MSP on this should be 50 plus 50% of the expenditure. So 50 plus 50% of 50 is 25. So this is 75. So the government should say that once you are done with the rice, once you have harvested the rice, I will buy at 75 rupees per kg. You got it? This is the concept. Okay. So I hope it's clear. Now, the next one is, the government has said that the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana, this is Yojana, and this scheme is to provide ration to food, to 80 crore population. I hope you are aware of this. This has been there for the past 3-4 years. So this has been extended by 5 years by the government. Okay. Now, in this budget, the government has talked about 9 priorities areas. Okay. And these are the 9 priorities areas, and we'll be discussing one by one. So let's start with the first one. The first priority is productivity and resilience in agriculture. Now, I've told you, see, agriculture in India, almost 50% population are engaged in agriculture. We are actually we have a huge amount of land is involved in agriculture, but the problem is with productivity. What is the meaning of it? Let me explain. Let's say if this plot of land is supposed to ideally grow 100 kg of rice, ideally, it means ideally in developed countries. So in India, we are not able to produce 50 kg. Maybe we are able to produce 30 kg or 40 kg. So in the same amount of land, with the same amount of hard work, we have to increase the productivity. So how can we increase? There are many reasons, like we use high yield variety seed, irrigation should be good, and there are many other things. I'm not going in that detail. But yes, that is the very idea about it. Look, इसमें इतना facts में नहीं जाना. You have to understand the analysis is very important. You have to think, how the economy works. Like, now the second thing is the farmer's need is what? The first thing it needs is agriculture productivity should be high. The second thing farmer need is some money, extra money. What we call it as cash crop, your horticulture crop, like vegetable, like fruits, flowers. These are also very helpful. So that is what is also being talked about in the budget. Then another thing that is actually is एक और चीज होता है farmers के लिए, वो कहते हैं animal husbandry, है ना? Fishing, fisheries, animal husbandry, and a rearing of cattle. So cattle gives us what? Like milk. So the farmer can sell the milk, in case that crop fails, and he or she can earn money and all. So that's the idea about it. Okay, natural farming means we should be using less fertilizer and all. These are the things being talked about. Mission for pulses. Now, why is pulses and oil seeds so important? This is good for drought-prone areas. Now, because pulses requires very less water. If you are from village area, like rice requires huge amount of water, in the opposite fashion, pulses requires very less water. Now, when pulses require very less water, and this is very important because you must have heard it. Have you heard it, like farmer suicide in Telangana, Vidarbha region of Maharashtra, where there is drought? Because farmers, the main thing is the farmers, we need to give, and agriculture should be profitable, especially for those farmers who are living in drought-prone areas. You got it? Where the water, the rainfall is very less, or the irrigation facility is very less. In that case, pulses plays a very important role because it can be grown with very less amount of water. Okay, and that is why we need to promote this also. So that is what is the mustard, groundnut, sesame, soybean. These are things being talked about also. Then shrimp production. Shrimp is actually sort of a fish. So the author, they are also talking about, the budget is also talking about the same, promoting breeding of this shrimp fish. Okay. So fisheries sector is also important because it creates job and creates, especially in coastal areas or wherever the cities which are on the bank of any river. In that case, one of the profession becomes fisheries also. I hope you are aware. Okay, so that is what she's saying, that 1.52 lakh crore we have. In number nahi yaad rakhna hai. No need to remember the numbers. You have to understand the concepts. Okay. Now the next priority is, we have said that we'll be discussing 9 priorities in the budget. So the next priorities is employment and skilling. This is I hope you are aware. We call this term, India is having demographic dividend. Have you heard this term? Can anyone tell me in the comment section what is the meaning of demographic dividend? कोई बता सकता है? Demographic dividend का मतलब, one line I will say, India has a huge amount of youth population. The percentage of youth population is very high. Now, when the youth population is very high, it will lead to what? It will lead to heavy GDP growth. Huge GDP. But what? But there is a condition. The condition is you have to provide skill and education. Yes. If there is no education to youth, if there is no skill being provided to the youth, it will actually backfire. The youth will start doing more violence and crime and all. So that is why it is very important that India enjoys a demographic dividend where a huge amount of population is youth. So in that case, actually, we need to provide skill and employment also. So just for example, there's one thing that they're proposing, that those who are coming to the workforce for the first time, so 1 month salary and 3 months installment, the first time employees will be given and all. Okay. So these are some of the things. Itna numbers nahi yaad rakhna, but just have an idea about it. Okay. Then we have different schemes also, like a Skill India scheme is there, Skill India mission and all, to provide skills and all. एक और नाम होता है प्रधानमंत्री कौशल विकास योजना. Sometimes you can use this in interview and all if required. खैर, एक सीमैट में एक सेक्शन होता है एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप करके ना. In those case, I mean in those actually questions, sometimes these are asked. I'll discuss because है ना. खैर, so they're talking about the job creation in manufacturing and all. ठीक है, so support to employees के लिए they have given some schemes like manufacturing promote करने के लिए खास के they're talking about it. ठीक है. Participation of workforce, women's workforce, so they are providing women's hostel क्या proposal that working women should have a hostel. Like if let's say a woman from a small town comes to the big city for doing a job, so she need a sort of a hostel where she get all the facilities, food facility, laundry services and all. And so for that the concept of working women hostel has been established and all to promote women's employment and all. Then Skill India mein hai na, we are launching a newly centrally sponsored scheme now in which 20 lakh youths will be trained in 1000 ITIs. I hope you are aware of ITIs. So go and ask any mechanic mechanic, plumber and all. They will tell you what exactly is ITI. So many people actually they do. I mean they are being actually trained in that, and especially for poor people of poor background, hai na? So financially problem and poor people, if they are being trained. So if they are being trained how to do plumbing, and how to actually do, let's say, they'll be able to know how to actually like mechanics and bike mechanic and all. So if they get some certificate and if they open their own shop, so they'll be self-dependent and all. So that is why skill is very important. So that is what the idea is. Then only they'll be able to get jobs or set up their own establishment. Like they can have their own mechanic shop, and they can have their own hardware shop or something like that. Okay, then these are talking about the skilling loans and all. So for Skill India, for skilling, they are providing some loans and all. For education purpose also, they have decided to give loans and all. Yeah, so these are some of the basic things. Now, the next priority is inclusive human resource development and social justice. Now, inclusive and social justice are actually close words. Inclusive means in Hindi, what you call it as sabka vikas. And social justice also means the same. Actually, when we talk about these things, the social justice is actually to promote people who are weaker and vulnerable. So this is what we give the concept of social justice. Now you'll be saying कि sir क्या मतलब, जैसे I give you example like generally women, ठीक है, people of scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, okay, then physically disabled, you understand, like someone is having some problem like visually impaired or other problems and all. Then you can say old people, okay, then people of let's say minorities or weaker tribal areas, है ना. So these are actually poor भी आप सकते हैं, poor people and all, below poverty line, it's better to write, है ना. Then transgenders, है ना. So to provide social justice, the very idea is to ensure that those who are weaker, those who are, they should also be a part of the development process, right? And for that, है ना, they got to all round, all pervasive, all inclusive development of people, particularly farmers, youth, women, है ना. The farmers also are, है ना, and poor for achieving social justice. So उसके लिए क्या scheme है? They have talked about PM Vishwakarma, PM Swanidhi. We'll come to that because this is a scheme called as PM Vishwakarma. This scheme is to promote people who are indulged in artisanship and craftsmen, है ना, to provide end-to-end support. Like the best example you must have heard it, carpenter, है ना, जो लकड़ी के काम करते हैं, है ना. Then blacksmith, I'm just giving some example, lohar, है ना, rajmistri. So these are actually tailor, darzi, है ना. So these are the people who need actually support. So sometimes, so for that, the government has launched PM Vishwakarma Yojana. In the same fashion, there is Swanidhi scheme. So Swanidhi scheme is actually, it was launched just after COVID lockdown to provide loans to street vendors. जो रोड पे सब्जी बेचते हैं ना, so those who actually sell vegetables on the roads and all, है ना. So for them up to collateral free, means without any collateral or mortgage, they'll get up to 10,000 loan also. Especially during COVID, it was famous. ठीक है. फिर there's one more scheme called as Stand Up India. Now you will be saying, sir, there is something called as Startup India. We understand. Startup India, everyone knows. Startup India was to promote startups in India. Okay. But here we're talking about Stand Up India. So what is the difference? No difference. Stand Up India is specifically for women, scheduled caste, scheduled tribe. The same thing, to promote startups who are actually, I mean, the head of the startup is, let's say, women or SC/ST. So SC/ST led or women led startups. To promote that, there's a separate scheme called as Stand Up India scheme. Okay, is it clear? So these are some of the things you should be knowing it. Then Purvodaya. Purva means east. So we need to promote eastern regions of India, like Bihar, Jharkhand, West Bengal, Odisha, Andhra Pradesh. Like they are talking about this. So it's Bihar, Jharkhand, so this region. This region is called as northeast. This region is called as east. Okay. So especially, I hope you are aware, Bihar, Jharkhand, these are not very developed, and also we need to promote that specifically. So for that, Amritsar, Kolkata industrial corridor is being talked about. So here is Kolkata, here is Amritsar. And so this is, I'm making a rough idea. This is Amritsar, Kolkata industrial corridor. Means like these, you will find roads around along it. The expressway, like you must have heard about Grand Trunk Road. So you'll find on this route. So there'll be industries around it. Okay. So that's the idea of promoting industrial corridor, and so that there should be avenues for job creation and all. Roads, railways, bridges. So that's the idea of it. Industrial node at Gaya. So here is Bihar, Patna, and here you will find Gaya. So to promote industries in Gaya region and all, they're talking about these expressways, Patna, Purnia, Buxar, Bhagalpur. These are expressways which will be developed in this region. So that the transportation logistics cost reduces. Because transportation is an issue still. That of course, if the transportation or logistics cost, if the let's say, just guess, if from Patna to Delhi, let's say if truck is taking, let's say 30 hours to reach. And on the other hand, if the expressway is made and it is taking only 14 hours, then what will be it will increase actually what the economy. Why? Right? Because there will be more easily movement of trucks, so more easily movement of raw materials and finished goods. So of course it will improve the trades. So that is why highway expressway is important, especially from truck point of view, because trucks are the most important thing in expressways. Generally we travel on car, so we think that okay, expressway is for common people, but yes, it is for trucks also the most important thing. So because all the trade happened, a big section of trade happened via trucks and all. Okay. Then Andhra Pradesh Reorganization Act. Now what happened was, I hope you are aware, so this is Andhra Pradesh and this is Telangana and all like this. So before 2013, this was in Andhra Pradesh, but later on it got split. So here is Telangana and now we have Andhra Pradesh. So that is what they are talking about. So for that, they need to make a separate capital, because Telangana had Hyderabad, which they have taken. And earlier Hyderabad was the capital of Andhra Pradesh. Now Andhra Pradesh is left with this much only. So Hyderabad is building its own Visakhapatnam, and Amravati is also there. Okay, so they needed funds, so 15,000 crore the government has decided to give. Then there's an irrigation project also. Okay. For that, the government is deciding that it should be completed as soon as possible. Then there are other industrial corridors like Visakhapatnam, Chennai. Here is Visakhapatnam, Chennai. Then other is Hyderabad, Bangalore. Okay. Industrial corridors are being set up. Then they're talking about PM Awas Yojana to make houses for poor people and all. Women-led development, where they are talking about they are investing 3 lakh crore for women-led schemes. Like you must have heard Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao Yojana. To actually reduce the female foeticide, or to promote, because sex ratio actually was actually not very good. It's 943 out of 1000. So we need to ensure that the parents should not be killing their female girl child inside the womb. So for that, Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao Yojana is there. Then there are other schemes also like Sukanya Samriddhi Yojana. We are not going in that detail. Then this is a new one. So you should be knowing it. Pradhan Mantri Janjati Unnat Gram Abhiyan. This is specifically for tribal families. So this scheme is to promote tribal families, especially in the village areas of these people. है ना? ठीक है. इतना एक rough idea होना चाहिए. Then yes, in northeast of India, there is a proposal to have more India Post Payment Bank. है ना? So need to actually spread the 100 branches. है ना? Because of course in northeast actually we need to do more development. And there's a separate ministry also, donor ministry, development of northeast region. There's a separate ministry for that. Okay. So these are being talked about. Then priority 4 mein kya hai? Manufacturing and services. Now manufacturing, we have discussed that why manufacturing is so important. We need to promote it to create more jobs and all. And one of the important thing is MSME, micro, small, medium enterprise. This is very important. A large section of India depends on this. Micro, small, medium enterprise. Enterprise means companies. Now, the definition is here. After the class is over, if you are interested, you can read it. But for layman purpose, this is the example. It is in front of you. These all are examples of MSMEs. देखो ये भाई सब pottery बना रहे हैं. This is indulge in handloom, है ना? So ये सब्जी बेच रहे हैं, है ना? Then actually some maybe some tailor is there and all. So these all are examples of MSMEs. A big chunk of India depends on this for their employment, right? So for that, MSME co-promotion is very important. And there's a separate yojana. There's a separate PM Mudra Yojana. Now this is very important. I'll tell you why. PM Mudra Yojana is to provide loans to MSMEs. Okay. So what are the categories? This is asked in CMAT. This is the favorite question of CMAT. There's a topic called as entrepreneurship, है ना? Innovation and entrepreneurship, है ना? You must have heard it. आपने उनका सिलेबस देखा होगा. So यहाँ इनका favorite topic है PM Mudra Yojana. MSMEs is the favorite topic. They have repeatedly asked this PM Mudra Yojana. Okay. So actually in PM Mudra Yojana, there are 3 categories to give loans. So up to 50,000 in Shishu category, in Kishore categories, 50,000 to 5 lakh, and in Tarun categories, 5 lakh to 10 lakh. Now this time the government has decided in budget that to increase this 10 lakh to 20 lakh. So in the Tarun category of PM Mudra Yojana, the MSMEs can get loans up to 20 lakh rupees. Is it clear? This is very important for those who are preparing for CMAT. Okay, now this is about it. Now इसमें अब चलते हैं. The next is internship. Actually, they are talking about that in 500 top companies of India, 1 crore youths will be provided internship, a sort of a training. Okay, so that once they will come out of the training, they can actually do their own, let's say, self-employment, or they will be able to get jobs more easily in some other company because they will get some sort of skill. Okay, then digital public infrastructure. Again, we are talking about digitalization. DPI की बहुत बात की जा रही है ना कि digital public infrastructure को help India become $8 trillion and all. So of course in each and every section you know these things. I don't need to explain why is digitalization so important in these verticals, these sections. So that is what also being talked about. Okay. Now this is important for those who are actually you all are MBA students. So this is important. Dekho. First of all, it is very important that I have told you that the slow judicial process impacts the economy of a country. Just for example, मान लो कि the government has given this amount of land. जैसे ज़मीन है, the government acquired this land from people, and it actually gave it to the industries. ठीक है. Now some people went and filed a petition that this is violation of environmental rule. Giving land or setting up industry in this region is a violation of environmental rule. Some people went to the court, and sometimes court take 10 to 15 years. 10 साल 15 साल केस चल रहा है. Now the problem is industry is stuck. It has bought the land. In fact, it might have taken loan from the bank for investment, and now this industry is not able to actually this company is not able to set up its industry because the court has passed an order for a stay. Court ने stay लगा दी. अब 10-15 साल केस चल रहा है. So basically, it becomes very important that the judiciary should be very fast. Okay, so there are many solutions for that. Like National Company Law Tribunal, a sort of a separate tribunal has been set up to solve the disputes regarding corporates. I mean, just give an example. Similarly, IBC's Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. Why this was brought? To solve the problem of NBAs in industry. Like I'll give an example. जैसे क्या होता है जैसे कोई कंपनी है. It has taken loan from bank, and now it is not able to give it back. Okay, in that case, what will happen? In that case, the bank wants that the asset of this company should be sold, and I should get back the money. Otherwise, it will cause NPA, non-performing asset crisis, and all. But it takes a lot of time to sell that process requires a lot of time for insolvency and all. So to fasten that, the government came up with the concept of Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. इसके बारे में थोड़ा सा पढ़िएगा कभी, ठीक है? ठीक है. So these are the things to resolve more than 1,000 companies resulting in direct. हाँ, तो इसमें होता क्या है कि if IBC actually is helpful in recovering loans faster, it will actually be helpful for banking sector to become more strong, right? And also there are debt recovery tribunals have been set up and all to ensure that the loans The defaulted loans should be recovered as soon as possible. So these are some of the things. Okay. Then urban development के लिए there is cities as growth hub है ना, so they're talking about urban development. So there's a HAPA PM Awas Yojana in urban areas as well, to set up houses, to make houses for the poor people and all है ना, in urban areas. Then water supply and sanitation is also very important in urban areas. ये मैंने discuss कर लिया. Swanidhi scheme I have already discussed. ठीक है. Then in sixth is energy security. Now, so we need more resource efficient economic growth with environmental sustainability. Now we are talking not only about energy, we are talking about environmental sustainability. So I'll discuss what exactly it is. Wait, देखो इसमें एक चीज है. One thing that is being discussed is PM सूर्य घर मुफ्त बिजली योजना. Now what do you mean by this? So under this scheme, rooftop solar plants will be established in 1 crore households. देखो इसको कहते हैं rooftop solar plant. You must have seen it. There is if you go on the rooftop, छत पे जाओगे घर के, तो बहुत जगह ये लगा रहता है. So this will actually solar energy will be converted into electricity for electricity purpose and all, right? So this will be set up in 1 crore household. This is the target of the government under PM Surya Ghar Muft Bijli Yojana. So of course they will be able to get the electricity for free, through this and all. That's the very idea about it. Now the next is nuclear energy. I have told you, देखो, earlier we were actually currently also we are very much dependent on coal, almost around I think 50% roughly. Coal-based thermal power plant, still 50% of our energy is met with this. Now coal is actually causes pollution, so we need something renewable energy, and coal will deplete one day also. So renewable energy means solar energy ho gaya. We have nuclear energy also, okay, wind energy and geothermal and many others. Okay, so this is also nuclear energy is also being talked about here. Okay, we will be setting up small reactors and all. So nuclear reactors will be set up and all. Okay. Then we're having infrastructure. So the government is spending this much amount of money for capital expenditure. And we have discussed about what exactly is capital expenditure. Okay. And so अब इसमें इतना numbers वगैरह नहीं याद रखना. No need to go in numbers and all. Now irrigation and flood management. They're talking about the North Bihar problem. Actually, if you see, this is Bihar, state of Bihar. Okay. Now there's a river. I hope you are aware. यहाँ से गंगा जाती है. Now गंगा की एक tributary. There's a tributary called as Kosi, and Kosi causes heavy actually floods in Bihar. Bihar floods is very infamous. Kosi river is called as sorrow of Bihar. It causes a lot of floods. It is very deadly. And in fact, the river comes from Nepal. ठीक है. ये गंगा है. This is Kosi river. Okay. Okay. So that is what they are saying, that yes, we need to solve the problem of this. So they are coming up. Bihar has frequently suffered floods, and our plans to build flood control structures in Nepal are yet to progress. So Nepal में जो flood control structure बनना था, अभी तक बना नहीं है, yet to be made, है ना? So that is what they are talking about. They are giving the concept of accelerated irrigation benefit program. ठीक है? So that such products should be made and a Kosi Mechi link हो जाए. ठीक है? So what will happen is if these two rivers are linked, so the chances of floods will be lesser, है ना? So flood mitigation means to control the flood, and proper irrigation facilities is there. If the proper channelization is there, then of course, if the proper embankment of river is there, then the floods, the adverse impact of flood can be controlled. So these are the things being talked. Then Assam में भी होता है. This is Brahmaputra river, very famous. Okay, and this is the state of Assam. So the Assam also gets affected with Brahmaputra river. Then it's talking about Himachal flood. I hope you are aware. I think last year or last to last year we have seen landslides in Himachal, Uttarakhand and all. Even in Sikkim also we have seen. So these all are because of Himalayas. यहाँ पे Himalayas है, that is why we see a lot of landslides in these regions. Then we are talking about tourism. Why is tourism so important? हो सकता है कई बार इंटरव्यू पूछा जाए. The most important thing is it is actually causes creation of lot of jobs. Job creation ही बहुत important होता है. जैसे if you get a chance to visit, let's say Shimla, Mussoorie, अगर आप यहाँ जाओगे तो क्या होगा? So a big section of people are dependent on tourism. ठीक है? उनका business tourism से ही चलता है ना? So that is why it is very important. So they are giving example like Vishnupad temple at Gaya and Mahabodhi temple at Bodh Gaya. So this is Vishnupad temple in Gaya district of Bihar, and this is Mahabodhi temple. Mahabodhi temple is also in Gaya district. It's in Bodh Gaya. Near to that, you will find People Tree, where actually Gautam Buddha got the enlightenment, and that is why Mahabodhi temple for Buddhist is very famous there. ठीक है. So they are talking about we need to promote these things, है ना, like that, है ना, दिखा देता हूँ कहाँ पे. ये बिहार है, this is Bihar, and here is Patna, here is Gaya. ठीक है. Okay, then Rajgir also they are talking about it. So here is Rajgir, somewhere here. ठीक है. This is the place, and near to it you will find this the same Nalanda University in Rajgir. है ना. Nalanda is actually a district, and Rajgir is a subdivision. So Nalanda University you will find the same place. है ना, तो क्या लिखा हुआ अभी. So to promoting, so recently Prime Minister Modi actually inaugurated one new campus of Nalanda University, है ना. Then Rajgir there is a Jain temple also, ठीक है. So that is what also being talked about, ठीक है. So these are the things. Then priority 8 क्या है, innovation, research and development, to promote innovation, है ना. So उसके लिए क्या, they have come up with अनुसंधान, national research fund and all. So these are the things being talked about. Then space economy में where ISRO is there, the government has decided to spend 1,000 crore rupees in the next 10 years, ठीक है. फिर नेक्स्ट जनरेशन रिफॉर्म्स की बात करें, दे आर टॉकिंग अबाउट एक्चुअली व्हाट, इंप्रूविंग द प्रोडक्टिविटी ऑफ फैक्टर्स ऑफ प्रोडक्शन, है ना. सो फैक्टर्स ऑफ प्रोडक्शन में क्या कहेगा, लैंड, लेबर, कैपिटल, एंटरप्रेन्योर. यू मस्ट हैव स्टडीड इन स्कूल डेज, लैंड, लेबर, कैपिटल, एंटरप्रेन्योर. सो टू प्रमोट दीज 4, है ना. सो दीज आर आल्सो द थिंग्स बीइंग टॉक्ड अबाउट हियर, ठीक है. इसमें उतना डिटेल नहीं जाना, लेकिन चलो मैं बताऊं, जैसे लैंड के लिए बताता हूं. सो देयर इज अ नीड फॉर लैंड रिफॉर्म्स, लैंड रिफॉर्म्स की जरूरत है ना. उसमें जैसे दे आर टॉकिंग अबाउट डिजिटाइजेशन ऑफ लैंड रिकॉर्ड्स, सो दैट देयर शुड नॉट बी एनी डिस्प्यूट. इफ यू गो इन विलेज एरिया देयर इज अ ह्यूज डिस्प्यूट, ये मेरा जमीन है, मेरा जमीन है ना. सो इफ एवरीथिंग इज डन थ्रू डिजिटाइजेशन, नो वन कैन मेक अ फेक डॉक्यूमेंट. सो द वेरी आइडिया ऑफ लैंड रिफॉर्म इज वन ऑफ द एस्पेक्ट इज डिजिटाइजेशन ऑफ लैंड रिकॉर्ड्स. सो एवरीथिंग इज विद द गवर्नमेंट अबाउट द लैंड रिकॉर्ड्स एंड ऑल, ठीक है. सो दिस यू शुड बी नोइंग इट ना. Then for laborers, they have come up with e-Shram portal. इतना detail अब नहीं जानना है. No need to go in detail. Then the government is saying that for ease of doing business, to ensure that business should flourish, they'll be coming up with Jan Vishwas bill. So let's see the bill when it will come. ना. हाँ, last में ये important है. This is important. The fiscal deficit is estimated to be 4.9% of the GDP. ठीक है. So fiscal deficit numbers याद होने चाहिए. And I hope you are aware what is fiscal deficit. It is total expenditure minus total revenue excluding borrowing. अब इससे समझ लो, the loan taken by you, जैसे let's say you are having 0 rupee on 1st January, ठीक है. In 1 year, let's say you earned, let's say I'll give an example, 1 lakh rupee. एक साल में आपने 1 लाख कमाया, and you spent, this is your earning, and you spent 1.2 lakh. Now you will be asking how it can be possible. So it can be possible only when you have taken 20,000 loan, and this loan is nothing but your fiscal deficit. So whatever is the gap between the expenditure and income, that gap is filled by the loan. That loan is called as fiscal deficit. ठीक है. That's the 4.9%. What should be the ideal case? According to Fiscal Responsibility Budgetary Management Act 2003, the ideal fiscal deficit should be 3% of GDP. It means we are spending more currently, so we need to actually control it further. ठीक है. Okay, then part B में indirect tax की बात कही. So she has talked about the GST, that GST has increased, decreased tax incidence, means the people are supposed to pay less now, and also these are the things being talked about. Then she has talked about actually changing some basic custom duty. देखो जैसे ना cancer patients के लिए, for cancer medicine, fully exempt 3 more medicines from custom duty, so there will not be any custom duty. Custom duty भी एक तरह का tax है, you can understand like this, ठीक है. So she has said that for cancer patient 3 more medicines we will not be charging anything, any custom duty. BCD means basic custom duty on X-ray tubes, है ना, has also been reduced, ठीक है. Mobile phone में basic custom duty has been reduced, so we might expect slight decrease in the price, है ना. Then reduce basic custom duty in these products things. फिर और जगह एनर्जी ट्रांजिशन के लिए, सोलर में फाइट करने के लिए, फाइटिंग क्लाइमेट चेंज, सो वी नीड टू प्रमोट सोलर एनर्जी, रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी, है ना. सो दीज आर द थिंग्स दे आर टॉकिंग अबाउट, कैसे प्रमोट करना है, ठीक है. देन मैरीन प्रोडक्ट्स में भी, है ना, रिड्यूस बेसिक कस्टम ड्यूटी. देखो और भी बहुत सारी चीज में बेसिक कस्टम ड्यूटी रिड्यूस किया गया, जैसे सिर्फ यहाँ पर बढ़ाया गया. देखो आप यहाँ पे प्लास्टिक्स, बिकॉज इट इज नॉन बायोडिग्रेडेबल, so it is harmful for environment, so in that case they have decided to raise the basic custom duty to discourage people to buy it. ठीक है। बाकी में देखो रिड्यूस किया गया, बीसीडी रिड्यूस किया गया, बेसिक यहाँ पे भी इंक्रीज किया गया बेसिक कस्टम ड्यूटी अमोनियम नाइट्रेट पे, ठीक है। देन आप देखोगे प्रपोज टू इंक्रीज बेसिक कस्टम ड्यूटी ऑन टेलीकम्युनिकेशन इक्विपमेंट पर इंक्रीज किया गया है, ठीक है, बेसिक कस्टम ड्यूटी। तो कस्टम ड्यूटी इंक्रीज होगा तो ऑफकोर्स थोड़ा सा चार्ज बढ़ जाएगा एंड ऑल। सो दीज आर सम ऑफ द थिंग्स। फिर डायरेक्ट इन टैक्स में जैसे इनकम टैक्स आता है मेनली, ठीक है। तो इनकम टैक्स में जैसे एक एंजल टैक्स हटा दिया गया। एंजल टैक्स एक्चुअली ये हो सकता है सीमैट में पूछ लिया जाए एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप वाले सेक्शन में। So angel tax was like, I mean, if you are having a startup, you are getting fund, angel investor, है ना, venture capitalist, ये सब नाम आपने सुना होगा, you must have heard these terms. So actually there was a tax imposed. So when angel investor used to invest, the government used to take some tax. So the government has decided to finish that. लिखा ना, देखो यहीं पे लिखा होगा. I propose to abolish the so-called angel tax for all class of investors. ठीक है. Then diamond cutting in India, I mean, Surat in Gujarat is the largest diamond cutting industry in the world. So the author is also, I mean, the finance minister is also talking about that. Then one more thing is that for foreign companies, the income tax, or what we call it as corporate tax, we use the word corporate tax for companies, has been reduced from 40% to 35%. Now, what will happen is the foreign companies will more come in, hopefully will come into India. There'll be more FDI. We are expecting something like that. Okay. So these are some of the things you should be knowing it. Then standard deduction personal income tax थोड़ा सा बढ़ाया गया है. So what will happen is, I mean, this is for tax base, but yes, you can understand that yes. So those who are salaried people, they will get some relief. ठीक है. And new tax regime का थोड़ा सा जो है, some slabs have been slightly changed here and there. So according to the government, you can save up to 75,000. Save up to 75,000 का बताया नहीं कि सब कोई save कर लेगा. It depends upon in which bracket you lie, how you actually file income tax and all. It depends on that. ठीक है. So these are some of the things. Now हुआ ये भी थोड़ा सा जान लें, because yes, what should be the impact? What happened was, I have just told you, Nifty 50 is National Stock Exchange Index, है ना. So what happened was, if you see it carefully, 11 AM के आसपास the finance minister started her speech, and जैसे 12:30 में खत्म हुआ, देख रहे हो, it suddenly went down, and then in the same fashion BSE Sensex का भी ऐसे हुआ. The stock market crash, देखो 1 बजे से just पहले around 12:30 when she ended her speech, फिर लेकिन धीरे धीरे राइज किया. ये क्यों हुआ ऐसा? Why just after or just almost the budget was over, the stock market suddenly went down, and the reason was, the people are saying, is because of two things. वो था STT security transaction tax, और दूसरा था LTCG long term capital gains tax and short term capital gains tax. ये सब ना किसमें लगता है? These tax are actually imposed on stock markets. ठीक है. जैसे आपने देखा होगा STT जो है स्टॉक म्यूचुअल फंड डेरिवेटिव्स पर लगता है. एवन कैपिटल गेन्स टैक्स बीसी पे लगता है. आई होप यू आर अवेयर. कैपिटल गेन्स तो पता होना चाहिए दैट इफ यू गेट, जैसे मान लीजिए आपने स्टॉक खरीदा 100 रुपए का, वो बढ़ के 120 रुपए आ गया, तो उस पर कुछ टैक्स लगा 20 रुपया वॉट एवर. सो देयर शुड बी सम टैक्स ऑन वॉट एवर यू हैव अर्न थ्रू स्टॉक. दैट्स कॉल्ड एज कैपिटल गेन्स टैक्स. तो ये जो दोनों SCGT और STT है, these are imposed on stocks. तो अगर इस पर टैक्स बढ़ेगा तो स्टॉक मार्केट ऑफ कोर्स नीचे जाएगा. ठीक है. सो यू गॉट इट. सो ये भी न्यूज में था, मतलब ये एक्चुअली आज शाम में मैं देख रहा था. तो व्हाई डिड वी सी सम सॉर्ट ऑफ स्टॉक मार्केट क्रैश टुडे आफ्टर बजट अनाउंसमेंट? तो दो मेन रीजन यही बताया गया कि STT को डबल कर दिया गया, देख रहे हो, डबल्स. एंड LTCG ये भी इंक्रीज किया गया, लॉन्ग टर्म कैपिटल गेन्स टैक्स एंड शॉर्ट टर्म कैपिटल गेन्स टैक्स, जो कि जनरली स्टॉक में लगता है टैक्स, है ना. सो ऑफ कोर्स इन दैट केस, ऑफ कोर्स फॉर देखो, लेकिन फिर बाद में थोड़ा सा रिकवर कर गया, इफ यू सी इट केयरफुली, है ना. दिस आल्सो ओके. सो दिस इज ऑल अबाउट टुडेस क्लास. थैंक यू एवरीवन. डू यू हैव एनी क्वेरी? आई होप आई हैव एड्रेस्ड मोस्ट ऑफ द थिंग्स. ठीक है. सो थैंक यू एवरीवन. पूरा वीडियो देखना, देन यू विल बी एबल टू अप्रिशिएट इट फर्दर, अगर आपने पूरा नहीं देखा है तो. सो थैंक यू एवरीवन. थैंक्स फॉर वॉचिंग. हैव अ नाइस डे.